Hey everyone, we're going to go over the quadrilaterals lessons today. Okay, so what is a quadrilateral? Okay, so if we talk about a quadrilateral is basically a fancy term for a four-sided figure. Okay, and that can be drawn pretty much any way. As long as there's no curves and all the sides are attached to each other. So I'm just going to draw one as an example over here. So there's one side, another side, something like that. There's nothing specific with any of it. They're just all kind of there. It's a four-sided figure, okay? So that's the big thing about what we're talking about today is a quadrilateral. And through this shape, when we start adding special properties, it starts to become more specific into different other shapes that we can call them, okay? So any four-sided shape we can just generally call, hey, it's a quadrilateral. Now, what if the quadrilateral had a baby? Okay, its next phase, or think of it as an evolution. It can go into this next figure called a parallelogram. Okay, a parallelogram is basically this shape. Okay, if you were just to kind of describe it, it looks kind of like a slanted rectangle. Okay, well, the thing about a parallelogram is that the word parallel is in it, and it means that the sides are parallel to each other. Okay, not just all the sides are parallel, it's the opposite sides that they're on. Okay, so for example, this top side, I'm going to mark parallel lines with this little arrow right here. So if you see an arrow like that, it means it's going to be parallel to something. So I have it parallel to the opposite side. Okay, that means they never touch each other. They're going to continue. If we drew those lines on forever, they'd never touch. Okay, it has two sets of parallel lines, though. The other set is over here on the sides. So I'm going to use two arrows to represent that is parallel with this side. Okay, so I have different sets of parallel lines. Now, I don't know anything about their lengths. I don't know anything about their angles. I can't say anything. All I know is that the opposite sides are parallel to each other. Okay, so with a parallelogram, a way we can describe it is it is a quadrilateral with two pairs of parallel sides. Okay, that's what a parallelogram is. So quadrilateral, four-sided figure, just has four sides. Then it evolves, it gets parallel sides. Okay, so now think of this as another evolution. Okay, but it has two separate directions it can go. Okay, so underneath parallelogram, let's draw a line going over here. All right, it can evolve into something else that's a little bit more familiar that we recognize. There we go. All right, what shape is that? It's a rectangle. Okay, so if we have a rectangle now, all right, so the same things hold true. Okay, so whatever we start at the top. All right, does a rectangle have 4 sides? Yes, because it's a quadrilateral. Are the opposite sides parallel to each other? Yes, because it's also a parallelogram. So it's taking its old features and it's continuing to bring them with them. So we're just going to add it on to this, okay? So we have the sides that are opposite, okay, are parallel, okay? So I have this line is parallel to this line. This line is parallel to this line. Okay, but something gets added onto here. Something a little bit more specific that we learn about it. Okay, what do we know about the corners in the rectangle? They are all now right angles. So they're all 90 degrees. So now we started talking about the angles there. And we know that the angles in all the corners are the same. So we now have parallel sides and then 90-degree angles. Okay? Now, if you want to start giving measurements to these things, we can also say that the opposite sides have the same length. So let's kind of go back up to quadrilateral up here. Kind of play with some numbers. Okay? So quadrilateral, none of the sides, none of the angles are the same. They're all different. So I'm going to say this is 1, 2, 3, 4, just in the length. They're all different. Okay, now if we go down to a parallelogram, I know that my opposite sides are going to be the same. Okay, since they're all parallel, they're going to be the same thing as well. So if I say that this is 3, I know its opposite side is also 3. I know that the top is going to be 5. I want to say that the bottom is also 5. Okay, so same thing over with the rectangle. If I know that this is 3, I know this is 3. This is 5. This is 5. The only difference between a parallelogram and a rectangle is that it is basically parallelogram with 4 right angles. Okay? Alright, so now going back to the parallelogram, I said it splits off into 2 different directions. Okay, so let's go back up here and we're going to draw another arrow going over here. Alright, so the next form. So these two are going to be kind of related. Alright, but they still are very different. So what I'm going to do is draw this shape. Oop, that's a bad one. Alright. We're going to pretend that it's a perfect shape. Okay. So what this is a rhombus. Okay? So what a special thing about a rhombus is that it still has 4 sides. Okay? It still has opposite sides that are parallel with each other, but we don't know anything about the angles. Okay? But what we do know about a rhombus is that its sides, I'm going to use a different color. We're going to use our sides. So remember when I used these tick marks? Each tick mark meant that they are all the same. So all the sides are equal to each other. Okay, so our big thing about a rhombus, it is a parallelogram with all equal sides, or congruent sides if you want to be particular. Okay, so it takes on the traits of the parallelogram, takes on the traits of the quadrilateral. Our opposite sides are still parallel to each other. It is just, now we do know that all the sides are exactly the same. Okay, and there is a shape out there that does have sides that are all the same. So I'm going to just say that all these sides are worth 4. Okay? All right. So now, we have one more spot in the evolution, okay? So we started the quadrilateral with a four-sided, then we got a little bit more specific saying, hey, the opposite sides of the quadrilateral are going to be parallel. Then that splits off into two options. We have a rectangle, or we can go to the rhombus route, whichever, the light or the dark side, whichever one you want. And then in the end, we come back together. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to combine these two to make one super being shape. And that shape is this. It is a square. Now, the square is like the most specific type of quadrilateral you can ever get. We know that all the sides opposite to each other are parallel. We know that the angles inside are all 90 degrees. And all the sides are equal to each other. Okay? So, you can describe this square two different ways. We can say that it is a rhombus with four right angles or you can say it is a rectangle with four equal sides. Okay? So there you have it. We kind of have a little bit of a flow chart of what a quadrilateral and all of its types are. Now, let's kind of get into some weird theory talking stuff, okay? So, is a square a rectangle? If I have to go up on my chart, okay, if I start on the bottom and if I have to say, is a square a rectangle? I started as a square and I'm looking to see if it's a rectangle. It is, oops, let me erase that. That's supposed to say always. Okay, is a square a rectangle? Yes, always. Now, if we go down on our list, okay, we start at the top, okay, is a rectangle a square? Sometimes. When is a rectangle a square? It is a square when all of its sides just so happen to be equal. But is it always? Nope. Not always. Now, there's one more option. If we go side to side, it is never. Okay, a rectangle is never a rhombus, and a rhombus is never a rectangle. Okay, we don't have enough information saying that they have the same four angles. We don't have enough information saying that they're all equal sides. Okay, so we can never go side to side. All right. So there you have it. There's our lesson on quadrilaterals. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Let me know in our live lessons if you have any questions. I'll see you guys later. See you, love you, bye.